Welcome to this basic skirt tutorial. We're gonna start off with an example skirt. I am using this green skirt here. This will remove the need for a pattern. So I'm starting by taking the measurements. The main measurements are the width at your hip and waist, then the length of the skirt, and you will want to have the width at the bottom of the skirt. The two last can be adjusted if you want the skirt to be tighter or longer. Then we're going to note down these measurements. So I have 40 in width of my waist, 60 at the bottom, and 50 centimeters as the length. Here I'm marking in green the places where there will be seams, and when we have seams we have to account for seam allowances, and this will be reflected in the numbers on the left. Then in pink I'm marking the darts that I want, and so the darts will require to be adding some width to the measurement when we're cutting the fabric. So on the left, I'm placing the measurements in which I need to add my seam allowances. So my width at the top and at the bottom. And in pink, I'm adding the parts that will be affected by the darts and where I need to add a little bit of width to compensate. I'm also adding a zipper in the middle of my skirt, so I will need to account for this also in the final width. Here I thought that 2 centimeters per seam allowance was needed to be added. So, 2 times 3 equals 6, so they're added to the width. For the back paneling, I'm also adding a 4 centimeter for the zipper. So I'm gonna start by folding my fabric in half. You want to make sure that the fabric is folded along the right side, so against the bias, depending on the type of fabric that you have. Mine is wool, so I do not have to take this into account. And you're gonna place your skirt on top. The placing of the skirt is just to replicate the basic shape, and then we're going to refine it with some measurement to add the seam allowance around the skirt seams. I'm tracing simply with the bar of soap. Some people prefer chalk. I like soap because I always have it on hand and I can cut it into smaller pieces if need be. I'm gonna take my measuring tape and measure 2 centimeters along the edge for the seam allowance. You want to extend that mark all around it. In this case, I ended up deciding that I wanted my skirt to be shorter than the green skirt, so I did not add seam allowances on the top and on the bottom, but if you want the same measurement, you need to do it. Here you can see me trace a line at the top. The line at the top is just because I want to my skirt to sit lower on my hip than the reference skirt. Now it's time to cut the fabric. If the fabric is slippery, I will recommend to hold it in place before cutting. I'm using a rotary cutter with a board, but scissors are fine too. It's just easier and faster with the cutting. time to open it and take a piece of your lining and trace it with the reference skirt. Okay, now time to add the zipper. I'm gonna show you a way so that even if you don't use an invisible zipper, the zipper won't be showing in the end. The first step is to trace a line in the middle of your skirt. This is the back panel, and then you're gonna cut along the edge. You really want the two pieces that you have to be symmetrical. Once that it is cut, you're gonna place them one on top of another, and you're gonna make a straight stitch along the straight edge. To make that straight stitch, you're gonna measure from the top to the end of your zipper, and you're gonna want to make a mark. So from the top to this mark, you're gonna do a loose stitch so that you can then remove it, and then on the other end you're gonna make a nice stitch with some back stitching so that it's all holding in place. I'm starting from the bottom here. You can see that I back stitched it to hold it in place, and now I'm gonna stitch it until the white line that I just made. Once I reach that white line, I'm gonna back stitch to hold it in place. I'm making this stitch with the smallest possible stitch length so that it's all neat and close. And then the part where the zipper will go, I'm making my machine go to the longest stitch so that it is easily removable after. I'm gonna show it with a face view so that it's clearer right after this. Also, for this step and for the sewing of the zipper, you want to make sure that your thread is the same color as your fabric, because we're gonna have to top stitch the zipper, and the thread color is gonna show on the fabric. Once you made your straight stitch, you want to press it in place with an iron. This is very important. Take your time for this step. So you're gonna want to do this with the lining too. And once it is done, place your zipper front facing to the seam, and you want to clip it in place. You're gonna make a straight stitch on both of the sides and in the middle as shown on the image. I'm using the stitch that is closest to my zipper, and I'm starting in approximately 3/4 so that I can then remove the zipper from the way and stitch the top too. Now's the time to add the darts. As we measured before, you're gonna take the width of your skirt and you're gonna make a mark at the quarter length. So if you have difficulty measuring the quarter, go from the middle to the side and then take the measure of the middle of that. Here, my dart is 1 centimeter wide on each side, so I'm gonna mark that, and I'm gonna do it for the 4 darts. Actually, these 2 panels are gonna go on top of one another, so it really counts as 2 darts. Once that is done, I'm gonna measure 5" approximately, and I'm gonna do a straight line for each of the 4 darts that I'm making. Then I'm measuring with my tape to make sure that they are all of the same length, so 10 centimeters. The largest that you make your dart at the top, the more waist cinched it will be, and the longest you make them, the longest that the cinch will be. Now that this is done, you want to join the end of the line to the points that you made before on each side for the 4 lines. Take your time, as this will be your guide for sewing after. Also notice that my fabric is on the wrong side out. Once that this is done, you want to take your dart and fold it in half and clip it in place, and making sure the 2 lines are joining at the top and that your bottom folds on the pointy part. Once everything is well clipped, it's time to make a straight stitch. There are 2 things that you want to respect when making your dart so that it doesn't pucker at the end. First, you're gonna start with a straight stitch at the top of the triangle. So I'm using a normal length stitch, and you want to backstitch this part. And then following the line up until the pointy part of your dart. When you're nearing the end, you're gonna want to put your stitch length to the minimum possible and continue in a straight length until you reach the end. When you reach the end, do not backstitch. This is very important. So as shown on the video, I did not backstitch because after I will separate my 2 ending threads and make knots. If you backstitch on the end, your finished product will pucker, so that's no good. Here I'm making 2 knots to secure in place, and here's the finished dart. Okay, so now's the time to assemble the skirt and the lining together. So you're gonna take your 2 back sides and put them right side up, and your 2 front side and put them good side down. So the good sides are facing one another. Once that will be done, you want to clip the edge to stabilize everything and sew a straight stitch along the 2 edges. So here I'm showing the lining on the left, and my good fabric for the outer shell is on the right. Once you have your straight stitch, since it's a curve, so that it lays good and flat, you want to make some little notches with your scissors, and you want to make them at an angle. So perpendicular like this is a no, so that it doesn't unravel. Once that is done, flip it right side out and iron out the side of your skirt. I'm adding piping tape, but it's optional. So you want to clip the top part of your skirt to your lining, and if you're adding piping tape, sandwich the piping between the 2, like so. So for the lining, the wrong side will be facing outward, and for your skirt, the wrong side will be facing inward. So on the inside, you're gonna have the 2 good sides facing one another. So what I'm doing is that I'm going to make a straight stitch all along the edge of the waist, and then I'm gonna flip back the skirt like so. So this is what it looks like, and the final step is to unravel the zipper. So I'm taking, this is what I'm doing on the screen. Take your time to not rip your fabric out, but you're gonna do this to the lining and to the other shell of your skirt up until the line that you've made before. So now that you unravel your zipper, you're gonna secure it in place and make a top stitch all around. Now put your skirt on your ironing table and iron along the piping to make it flat all around the edge. This step is optional, but if you want the fabric at the top to lay very nice and flat, flip the right part of your skirt and do an understitch. So you see here the lining, there's like the piping and the 2 layers of fabric. You're gonna want to sew along this edge on all the side on the lining inside. So when you flip it around on the inside, you know, here is the piping, you're gonna have a line all around the edge here. So here's the skirt. There's only one last step to do, and it's to finish the hem. So for this, we're gonna take the top part and fold it over like that all around, and take the lining and fold it the other way. So they're gonna be facing each other like this. This here is the stitch that I'm going to use to finish the hem. So first you fold your fabric once, and then you flip it so that the raw edge is showing, and then the folded edge is here all along. So when you stitch, you see it's gonna make a straight line around the free edge here, and from time to time you're gonna have one stitch that's gonna go through the 3 layers, and this is going to hold everything in place. So if I do an example, you see it's stitching in the free edge, and whoop, it attached it here. So I'm gonna show you what it does. We don't see much here, but we see the 2 stitches that are attached. So you want to stitch it as close as possible to the edge so that the big stitch here doesn't show. If you don't have the option on your sewing machine, or you're not comfortable with this option, you can also buy some heat bond tape. And how that works is that you place it between your fabric, and then with a hot iron you press, and it's gonna melt the ribbon so that it stays all nice like a glue. It's another option, but the bottom of your hem is gonna be quite stiff with this, so be wary of that. Congratulations on your skirt. Comment down below if you made it, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Congratulations.